Hi everybody, it's Ryder from Hotspotting. We've just published our new 2018 edition of Top 5 Perth Hotspots for the coming year. It's a particularly opportune report because, as many of you may be becoming more and more aware, there's a major recovery underway in the Perth market after 4 very tough years in the Western Australian capital, in which prices and rents have fallen, vacancies have been very high. But increasingly, property watchers around Australia are becoming aware that the bottom of that market has been passed and there's a recovery underway. And investors who think counter-cyclically are showing increasing interest in the possibilities of buying in that market at attractive prices, with not much competition yet from other investors, ahead of a looming recovery, which we feel very confident Hotspotting is going to be happening in 2018. We've been watching the Perth market for some time to determine the optimum time to buy there. The best time to get into any market is when the market's at the bottom of the cycle, whereas most investors act when they read in the newspaper or hear on television that there's a boom on, which means that the best time to buy is already passed. But Perth hasn't reached that point yet. It's still around about the bottom, just starting its recovery. And for people with an eye to an opportunity to buy well before the market recovers, now is the time to be looking in Perth, we believe, which is why we've timed the publication of our new Top 5 Perth Hotspots report for now. We're increasingly confident that the Perth market is over the worst and is moving into that revival phase. The Western Australian economy is recovering, it's creating jobs again. The resources sector appears to be on the way back. An increasing number of new projects are being brought online. And as a result of that, the Perth housing market is starting to respond, and we're seeing increasing sales activity in that market. Until recently, Perth had the weakest market amongst the capital cities with the highest vacancies and the greatest price decline, but that's no longer the case. The latest price data shows that property values are no longer falling in Perth, and at the same time there's a pattern of rising sales activity across the Perth metropolitan area. So the current situation represents opportunities for investors taking a long-term view. When a market's down the way that the Perth market has been over the last 3 or 4 years, there's a tendency to forget history, and the history shows that Perth traditionally is a very strong economy. It's one of the national leaders on population growth normally, and it's also one of the national leaders on price growth usually. In fact, probably the best instance I can find certainly in recent history, certainly in the last, say, 2 to 3 decades, of a major market showing sustained strong price growth over a very long period of time actually occurred in Perth from 2002 to 2007. Perth had sustained extremely high double-digit or more price growth for that 5 to 6 year period, including a period in which the annual price growth rate for Perth housing reached more than 40%. So it's had spectacular periods of growth in the past. I'm not suggesting that it's going to be getting back to that kind of growth anytime soon, but certainly a recovery is underway. And one of the ways that we chart the health of markets and the way in which we have seen the pattern of recovery in the Perth market is by charting sales volumes. And in our last 5 quarterly surveys of sales activity in Perth for the Price Predictor Index, which we publish every quarter, the number of growth suburbs in the Perth metropolitan area has grown from 0 to 4 to 12 to 31, and in the most recent quarterly survey, 42 suburbs with growing sales trajectory, which is a pattern of improvement, which indicates that a return to price growth is not far off for Perth. Most locations across metropolitan Perth still have higher than comfortable vacancies, which means that if you're buying in that market now, you're not going to get a very strong rental, and so the rental returns initially aren't going to be that flash, but the current situation does represent an opportunity for counter-cyclical investors to buy at low prices ahead of the recovery. So if you want to learn more about that, get our new 2018 edition of Top 5 Perth Hotspots. It's now available on the hotspotting.com website, go to the homepage, click on investors, and it takes you to our entire suite of investor reports, and you'll find top 5 Perth 2018 there. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from Hotspotting. Talk to you again.